Hey, it's Johnny Goodball, ManTraining.com. Today I did a workout. Now, anybody who's paid attention to me know how I feel about the blue-collar worker. I believe that there's a reason, men are weaker today, and one of them is that they don't do much of anything physical outside of the gym, if they even do that at all. And you got guys out there, fitness influencers, that will try to tell you how to do better at physical labor when, if they're under 40 or even 40 or under, they probably haven't done much blue-collar work themselves, especially if they work in a gym, okay? Their experience is probably not actual blue-collar work. I listened to a guy one time saying, hey, you use a sandbag to shovel. It doesn't even, maybe it would mimic it a little bit, but the only way you're actually going to get better at shoveling is shoveling or actually have something. Like I use this here, and I'll tell you why, I used a 27.5 pound shovel, okay? Okay, it's a good bar, and I got the weight on there, and then, it's just more, I was doing it like this, boom, throw. Bring it back, down, throw. I wanted to see how many I could do in an hour, and I'll tell you why. And I wound up with 1,200 of those mimicking shoveling, 1,200. That was my goal. It wound up being 33,000, something like that, pounds, over 16 tons, okay? Ashley wrote a song about that, Tennessee Ernie Ford. You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Anyhow, pretty good song, old. So these miners used to have to shovel so much weight, obviously, to keep getting paid. And I believe it was Bethlehem Steel had done research on how they could get more tonnage done with the same workers and cut down the workforce. And they were even doing that back in the 1800s, trying to cut down the workforce. And when they lowered the weight of the shovel from 38, I believe something like 38.4 or something like that, to 21.5 pounds shovel, the load on the shovel, they were able to go from like 30, I think it was 30, something like a 30 ton to 60 ton, almost doubled it, and cut down a ton of workers from the same guys who would do it on a regular basis. Now, if you figure that out, it's about 11,000 pounds an hour. 11,000 pounds an hour if they're working fucking 10, 12, probably 14-hour days back then. They were moving 132,000 pounds, which is about 60 tons. That's a lot of fucking weight to do every day. They probably did it 7 days a week. Anyhow, so I figured I'm going to go out there, and I've shoveled before, obviously, but I've never shoveled as a job per se. It's nothing but my job. So I did it for an hour. I wanted to try it. I did 1,200 of them. My goal was 1,200. So at 33,000 pounds, 16 tons, it was a good workout. I didn't struggle a lot. Wasn't that difficult. Now, if I had to do it every day, all day, obviously I would be a little bit tougher to do. But then it goes back to when I talk about men with testosterone, higher and lower. And so many people want to fight on it and tell you why they do what my theories have always been. Men do not do enough that require the body to produce the testosterone needed to keep it fucking going right. Man has a purpose, their testosterone is going to be better. They get up every day and go to work, they're probably going to have better testosterone. That's if you're in an environment that is conducive to higher testosterone, being around men, doing physical work, moving all day long. Guys smoked and drank, and they were about 150 pounds maybe, and they did this day in and day out, and they were still having families and still having kids. And I can tell you right now, if you go back to the 1800s and look at the people, or even early 1900s, people like to look at the gym guys, the strongmen from that era. Well, that was their job. And a lot of those guys were, at one time, manual laborers that helped build their strength. But to think the average blue-collar worker was leaving the coal mine and they were going to a gym to do deadlifts, come on. That's retarded to even think that. They're lucky to they'll get home, they're going to go to fucking sleep, they're going to eat, they're going to get up, they're going to do the same thing over again. And yet their testosterone stayed high, they had families, they smoked, they drank, probably didn't have the greatest diet, probably wasn't getting enough, probably wasn't looking for the recommended amount of protein, they were just fucking existing. And it still worked. So anyhow, doing this for an hour. If anybody thinks that it's real easy to do and it's they got to give it a shot. For an hour, do as many as you can, as if you were actually shoveling. Now, I've seen people say shoveling, when they shovel, what helped them was deadlifts and rows. And I'm like, why? Why would a deadlift, doing deadlifts, help, or a row help, or doing rows help? Shoveling has nothing to do with either one of those exercises. I mean, there's muscles that are used in both exercises, but in a completely different way. Because most people out there, if they're deadlifting, come on, man. Everybody knows they're ego deadlifting. They're lifting as much as they possibly can. If you're going to deadlift, if you tell me you deadlift your body weight, for an hour, I'll believe you. But if you tell me you're deadlifting 500 pounds and you're a 1, 2, 3 rep guy, 5 rep guy, you ain't fucking shoveling for a fucking hour. It's not going to do anything. That's bullshit. Your body will not handle the constant volume of a lighter weight over time, okay? Unless you do it, okay? If you deadlift a lot of weight and you do them things on a regular basis, that's right. They tell you, how do you get better at wrestling? You wrestle. How do you get better at swimming? You swim. How do you get better at shoveling? You shovel. That's just the way it is. But shoveling activates so many different muscles. Anybody who's done it knows it's not easy to do on constant. Anybody who's shoveled snow, did it as a job as a kid, went around asking people to shovel. I mean, shoveling your car out, it's not that easy, okay? It does take a lot out of you. But the fact that people say, well, yeah, I deadlift and stuff like that. How many people today, they don't shovel their own snow. They got a snow blower. They pay somebody else to do it. It's perfect gym work. That's perfect work. Why would you give that up to go to the gym? I don't know. But anyhow, something I tried. I liked it. I'm not willing to go to a coal mine and shovel with those guys if they're even doing it anymore. Probably not as much as they were. But I know in the 1800s they were, and they were moving 60 tons, and that's a lot of fucking weight. And it's over a fucking day, but still, for me to move 33,000 pounds or 16 tons in an hour, and never doing it before, I'll take it later.